Welcome to the part 3 of getting started with Apache Hudi, Deltastreamer and DMS. So this part basically we are gonna create a fake table and essentially populate some data and then move to the DMS part. So this is the architecture that we are building. This is part 3 of the video. Alright, so at this part we are at the DMS. Okay, before we go to the DMS, let's create a table on Aurora with some fake data points. You will be given a Python file. Come to the Python file and come to line 275, and all you have to do is simply replace your connection string over here, as you can see. Now run the Python file. So I'm gonna run the Python file. This Python file will essentially create a table and insert certain fake data points into the table. If I run the query again, as you can see, there's a table created called sales in the schema public, and this is how the data looks like. So at this point we have a we have a table which we want to basically monitor and basically capture all the insert updates and deletes and basically bring that into the data lake. So now let's move to the DMS part. So setting up the DMS. Back to my computer and back to my management console. Now here it's important that you take a note of the VPC because the DMS also has to be in the same VPC. So if I come here, let me just make sure. I think I gotta come here, come to the connection, and my VPC ends with 49. So I'm just gonna take a note of this on a notepad or somewhere, right? So basically come to the notepad, just put a note over here. Okay. And again, all these steps are also given on my GitHub section in the README file. As you can see, everything will be given to you step by step here. So now we are going to the DMS part. So the first thing that we need is a replication instance, so that once we set up the replication instance, then we can set up a source, a target, and then create a task to bring in data into S3. So let's move to that part. So now heading over to the DMS. Again, this will also take up to 5 to 10 minutes. Now head over to the replication instance. Click on create replication instance. And name it whatever you like. I'm gonna name it Deltastreamer or Aurora, right? Everything else I'll be leaving it to default. I'll choose the dev cluster. Now this is the tricky part. You have to make sure you select the same VPC where your Aurora cluster is. My VPC ends with 49, so probably I'll select that one. Make sure public accessible is check mark. Okay, that is important. And rest everything you can leave it to pretty much default. And I'm gonna click on create replication instance. Now this will again take up to about 15 minutes. As you can see, it's in the creating state, if I can zoom in. So I'm gonna resume once the replication instance is created. Now since the replication instance is creating, there are a couple of other things that we can do. The first thing that you can do is we need an S3 bucket, and here you can see I have an S3 bucket. I'm gonna come to the bucket section, click on here, and here we are gonna essentially name this as Deltastreamer demo Hudi. I'm gonna call it Deltastreamer Hudi demo. Click on create bucket. At this point my bucket has been created, as you can see. So yeah, go ahead and make sure you create the bucket. Now the next thing that we need to do is basically we need to head over to the IAM. First of all, I'm gonna copy the name of the bucket in my notepad. Okay, now basically we are gonna head over to the IAM. So I'm gonna come here, click on role, click on create role, and then here select the word DMS, click on DMS. Over here in the policy, search for S3 full access, so probably this one. Click next, give it a name, and click on create role. I've already done that, and if you observe, I already have a ARN called DMS. So here you can see. Now copy the ARN and save it on your notepad. As you can see, I have done it. Okay. So at this point, we have our DMS replication instance, we have an S3 bucket, and we made an ARN, and then we are going to set up a source, a target, and a task once the replication instance is created. Finally, it's ready. It took a long time actually to, spin that replication instance. Now, basically, what we need to do is we need to essentially create a source and a target. So basically, I'll head over to the endpoints, click on create endpoints. I'll zoom in as much as I possible. Click on select our DBMS instance. Gonna select that one. Leave everything else to default. Click on provide information manually. Username Postgres, password Postgres, database name is Postgres. Scroll all the way on the bottom section, and here my VPC when I was creating was ending with 49, so I'm gonna select that. So make sure you select your correct VPC and then click on create test. Again, this should be successful. If you don't get successful, make sure your DMS replication instance and your Aurora cluster is in the same VPC. If not, it's gonna give you an error. Okay, so I'm running the test, and then I'm gonna set up my source. Once my source is set up, I'm gonna set up my target, which is my S3, which is where the DMS is gonna dump my insert, update, deletes as a Parquet file on the raw zone, and from there, our Deltastreamer is gonna take the data and process it in near real time. So let's wait, and here you can see successful. I'm gonna click on create endpoint. My source endpoint has been created. Now I need to create a target. So I'm gonna click on target, and this will be S3 target. Now remember we made that on, right? I told you in the last video to copy that, right? So basically that's my on. I'm gonna copy that, gonna paste that one here. Target engine will be S3. So I'm gonna select S3. Let me make sure. Oh, sorry, this is the description, my bad. I thought, yeah, so it's gonna be over here. Then the bucket name, we made a new bucket for Deltastreamer. Gonna put that. Bucket folder would be raw. Select your VPC, mine is 49. Click on run test. I should see everything okay. And then I'm gonna click on create endpoint. So now I have a source, I have a target, and there's one thing that you need to do. I'll probably show you. It's a small setting probably, and that is very important, okay? So hopefully this should be done in a second or two, okay? Again, if you have been following all the steps correctly with me, it should be working fine, okay? And as you can see, success, we have a source and we have a target. Now come to target. Now you gotta do a small tweak. Come to modify. Click on editor over here, and you see this one, paste the one that I give you over here. Okay, so let me make sure my S3 bucket name was Deltastreamer Hudi demo. So basically my bucket name will go here, Now I'm gonna copy these settings. Gonna copy these settings. This is important. Okay, gonna put them here, and you can see data format is Parquet. And one more thing is important. On the bottom section after this, you have to put one more thing, that is Parquet version is equal to Parquet 2.0. So add that one here in, okay, so you can see, then click on save. Now you're all set with the source and target. The next part is gonna setting up a task and bringing the data incrementally into our raw zone.